Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole, the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board. Hereby call this meeting to order. We will begin with the invocation led by Board Member Nathan Rust, since Mr. Landis is not here, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Board Member Emily Chatelain.
Please stand and let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this day. We pray that you will see your will be done in this room tonight, Lord, that you will help us do what is best for the children in our community and our families, Lord. I pray that you will keep everyone safe on the way here and going home this evening, Lord. I pray that you will bless this community in our city, and we thank you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
District 3, President Powell Lewis.
Present.
District 9, Vice President Martin.
Present.
District 1, Mr. Blue.
Here.
District 2, Mr. Lannis. District 4, Ms. Stewart. District 5, Mr. Lewis.
Present.
District 6, Mr. Russ.
Present.
District 7, Mr. Gode.
Here.
District 8, Ms. Chatelain.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We will begin with item B1, unfinished business, stipend. Superintendent Smith, is there a presentation from you or a member of your staff?
Yes, Dr. Hall, you want to go? And I want to thank the board for allowing us the opportunity to go back and vet the stipend proposal with staff and the unions and our teacher advisory. There has been a couple of changes. The major changes that we've allowed more opportunities for teachers to receive this stipend. The original proposal didn't include a retention for those teachers who are teaching in the northern part of the district. I'm sorry, Dr. Hall, I'm going to take away your presentation. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. Ready? All right, good evening, everyone. Board President and Vice President and Superintendent and the board. Just going to take about 3 to 5 minutes to do a quick presentation on the differentiated compensation study allocation that was given to us by the LDOE. The goal of this funds was to focus on recruitment and retention. We received about $1.5 million, $300,000 were given to the charter schools, and the remaining 1.2 is for us, EBR, PSS. The goal is, once again, is to focus on recruitment and retention, especially in these 4 categories. The first one, critical shortage area, secondary math and science, grade 6 through 12, and ESS, grade K through 12. Category 2 for highly effective teachers. Category 3 for teachers working in high-need schools, as defined as the economical disadvantage rate of 85% or higher. Please note that the data that they use was from 2022. Okay, this is what they used to provide to measure and provide the funds of $1.5 million to the district. And category 4, stipends for teacher leader positions. So this screen that you're looking at is a simpler version of what we originally had. We literally pull it out, and thank you, major kudos to the union leaders that we sat with about a week ago to work this out. So we focused on recruitment and retention. Area 1, North Baton Rouge, we historically have a problem, a great challenge to fill vacancies on that side of town. So the goal was to put some much intentional efforts on filling vacancies on that side. So the total amount at that time is 40 teachers vacancies, and the amount will be allocated of $500 apiece. And the second area is alternative education sites. It's always another challenging area to find teachers to keep there, retain there, attract there, and their recruitment amount stipend is $1,250, about 20 vacancies we had since December. As of today, we're down to 8, so we're making some progress. In Area 3, all school sites for the critical shortage area, which are the subcategories for secondary math and science, grades 6 through 12, special ed, K-12, K-2 through 12, and that's $500 a piece, and that's 60 teachers, approximate numbers. And then for the retention area, once again, North Baton Rouge, 750. For the current teachers there, we have 600, and that was where the opportunity came for us to provide more for more teachers. And the alternative sites, 1250, we have about 200 teachers in the alternative sites. And for all areas of critical shortage area, secondary math and science, 6 through 12, and special ed, 750, total amount, 600 teachers. And for, which I'm super excited about the most, our VAM teachers, they scored a 4, and this is what the state provided us the numbers, 85 teachers, and it's 550, and we matched it with the current board approved for highly effective teachers. And just to elevate some much needed verbiage that we make sure we want everyone to be aware of, you must be an active full-time classroom teacher, so this is just a teacher stipend, not for all employees, even though we love everyone. This was geared towards full-time classroom teachers, and you must be hired in a full-time capacities from December 4th through February 29, 2024, and only for teachers hired to work in the identified focused areas. Love everyone, but we just want to throw some efforts around the areas of focus. And you must have a Louisiana teaching certificate or be eligible to obtain a Louisiana teacher certificate. And the recipient must be in an active employee status when the stipends are dispersed at the end of the semester. And a few questions, we did provide a much lengthy FAQ. We try to think of all the questions that folks may have, but I just want to take the time to just elevate 3 questions. When will the differentiated compensation allocation funds be dispersed? It will be dispersed on 6/24/2024. And can we carry this over for the next school year? Yes, we can. LDOE was gracious enough to give us that grace. And the final one, can employee receive multiple stipend? And just to reiterate, to maximize our recruitment and retention funding efforts, it is recommended by us, the Department of HR, that these funds are intended to provide stipends to those staff that qualify in one of the eligible areas. We just don't have enough to give in both areas. And once again, I want to say, oh, they're here? Oh. Thank you to the union leaders. It was a lot, but we hung out for 90 minutes and we finally got it right. So I wanted to say thank you guys for being awesome. And that's pretty much it. And we have backups in the back if you guys need to take some time to read it. But this concludes my presentation.
Thank you.
Anything else to add, Superintendent? All right, we'll open the floor to board comments. President Powell-Lewis.
We need a motion, Mr. Moore.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion? Mr. Lewis, seconded by President Powell-Lewis, and we'll open the floor to board comments.
Okay, I think I'm first in the queue. Thank you so much for providing the details. I'm super excited about this. I've not only heard from teachers in the North region, but then also I've been hearing the voices of our alternative schools as well. And so I think that this is going to be super exciting for them. And then also just thinking about, you know, the different scenarios that they have and that they experience every day. hopefully this will start the process towards them feeling appreciated and valued. So thank you so much for sharing this information.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Goday.
Yeah, yes, thank you. I just wanted to highlight, because I didn't hear it in the presentation, but the total funding we got from this is $1.2 million.
So we got 1.5.
1.5.
300,000 was allocated to the charter schools, and then the remaining
Okay.
balance of 1.2
Okay.
is ours.
Okay,
Yes.
so net though, our teachers, the East Baton Rouge School District teachers,
Right.
That's $1.2 million, and that has no impact on the general fund.
That is correct.
And so I just want to highlight that fact for everyone, that this is a great deal. I'm very supportive of this, and it totals $1.2 million.
That is correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further board comments? Seeing none, we'll call for comments from members of the public. First up, Ms. Valencia Johnson with Louisiana Association of Educators.
Hi, Valencia Johnson, East Baton Rouge Parish Association of Educators in conjunction with LAE, which is Louisiana Association of Educators. I would like to say that I support this measure. This measure, like Dr. Hall said, was a collaborative effort with the unions. Yes, we stayed an hour and a half in a meeting to get this part right. The meeting was it was just about this particular thing, and we tried to spread the money as much as possible to support the North region and those critical shortage areas in the district. Thank you.
Are there any further public comments? We only have the one card. Anybody who wants to make comments on any item, please get the green card to our Board Secretary, Ms. Arman. Seeing no further public comments, we'll return to comments from the board. Any of my colleagues? All right, seeing no further board comments, Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Next up is item C1, graduation agreements. Because this item involves potential contracts with LSU, who employs me on a daily basis, I will be recusing myself for this item and asking our president to preside over this item.
Good evening, everyone. Item C1, items for consideration. Item 1, graduation agreements. Consideration of a request for the approval of an agreement between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and the following. Alphabet A, Southern University, in the amount of $60,500 for the rental of F.G. Clark Activity Center for high school graduations. Alphabet B, Louisiana State University, in the amount of $55,360 for the rental of the Pete Maravich Assembly Center for high school graduation. Strategic alignment, operational excellence, funding source, general fund. Is there a motion? It has been moved by Mr. Goday. Is there a second? It has been seconded by Ms. Chatelain. Comments from the board? Yeah. Okay, seeing no comments from the board, are there any comments from the public? Ms. Matthews. Okay, all right, seems as though she has stepped away. We'll return to comments from the board. Okay, seeing none, we will entertain a vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Taking back the meeting. Move on to item C2, Professional Services Contract, Youth Educational Services, Inc. Consideration of a request for the approval of professional services contract between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and Youth Educational Services, Inc. Yes, in the amount of $47,925 to provide instruction to ACT classes at Broadmoor High. Strategic alignment, student achievement and development, funding source Title I school-wide. Is there a motion? Moved by Mr. Lewis. Is there a second? By Mr. Ballou. All right. Any comments from the board? Mr. Smith, please.
No.
Mr. Smith pocket dialing into the meeting. All right. Any comments from the board? Mr. Ballou.
Thank you. I just wanted an explanation. I know it's for Broadmoor High School. Are there similar services at the other high schools? And just wondering why this was budgeted for just Broadmoor.
The answer is yes. You can come forward, Dr. Bethany. The answer is yes. Broadmoor High is actually extended using their school-wide Title I funds to extend this program throughout the year. I know we might say that ACT is in March, but it's going to extend through May, and students still have an opportunity to participate in ACT testing because they'll have the April 13th, June 8th, and July 13th. So.
That's correct. He's correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any further comments from the board? Any comments from the public on this item? All right. No comments from the public? All right, returning to comments from the board on this item. Mr. Lewis.
This is an excellent opportunity for us to make sure that our kids are getting what they need. I'm familiar with the young lady who provides these services, and I became familiar with them as far back as 2009. Two of my grandkids are in college right now, both of them on full academic scholarships, one at Grambling, one at Tuskegee University, who took part in this program as high school students. It's an excellent way to make sure that our kids get what they need. There's been a lot of talk about workforce development and all those things. All those things are great. But I'll go on record again as saying that ACT scores opens so many doors. Whether a kid decides to go to college right out of high school or go and attend college a few years later, if they've got that SAT score under their belts, it makes navigating the system a lot easier for them. So I am in 100% favor of this expenditure. I see it being, we spent so much money up here the past year or so, but this one, I'll stand behind 100%.
Thank you. I've entered you briefly just to further answer your question, Mr. Ballou. Based on my conversations with Superintendent Smith, there is funding available for any of the Title I schools that we have in our district to qualify to get this kind of support. So any of them that don't have this are welcome to apply for it. Is that correct, Superintendent Smith?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
All right. Seeing no further board comments, Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving right along, item C3, policy revision sick leave bank. Consideration of a request for the approval of the following school board policy revision and related matters, GBR IBB sick leave bank. Is there a motion? Moved by Mr. Lewis, seconded by Mr. Rust. Comments from the board? Mr. Shamlin, could you perhaps just briefly explain what this amendment does so we all know?
Yes, sir. This is a revision to the current sick leave bank policy, GBR-IBB. In essence, it does a couple of things. It allows employees to donate sick days directly to another employee. It also allows the employee who receives those sick days to keep them beyond the extent of the end of the fiscal year. Previous policy was written in such a way that if donated to the bank, those days revert back to the person at the end of the year, but the person receiving them individually can keep those sick days. In response to some concerns about death benefits and retirement calculations, I think Mr. Gaudet raised that concern. We included some language that now says that those sick days cannot be used in calculations for retirement or death benefits. So in essence, that is the change to the policy. Also, it allows for daily intermittent use of those days, which was not allowed before.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This arose, as I recall, from some comments and concerns the board had when we last considered general revisions to the sick leave policy, and I think this hits the target we were looking for nicely.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate everybody's work on it. All right, any comments from the board? All right, seeing none, we'll turn to comments from the public. We have Storm Matthews wishing to speak on this.
Hello, thank you so much for bringing this back a year later. I appreciate it. I greatly appreciate the amendments. They are very helpful. They are going to help those teachers who are, even though they have catastrophic illness, they still come to work every day and don't miss 10 days at a time and need to use it intermittently. Just so that also we understand the benefits aspect of it. In order to cash out your sick leave when you retire, you have to go into drop, and you have to have 200 hours of sick leave, which is none of the individuals getting things donated to them. Okay, so it also, the hours, it would be 10 days donated to you is a total of $2,860. So if we are that bent on making sure a very ill teacher that is still dedicating their lives to our children do not at retirement get $2,860. Let's just tell all teachers, sick as you are, just don't come back. Thank you.
Thank you. President Powell-Lewis, would you please read the public comment that we had on this item, the internet comment rather?
Yes. This comment comes from Ms. Fairleigh Cook Jackson. Her comment reads as follows: please vote in support of this policy. Our team members are amazing humans who deal with very real life situations. It is time we show them we value their dedication to our students by approving this long discussed sick bank. Allow them to keep the days donated to them and allow them to carry over the days to the following year for that specific team member. Also, days should be allowed to be used when needed, not only consecutively. It is time to value our educators and trust their value of one another as we trust them with our children every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so any further public comments on this item? One more. Please come identify yourself, sir, and fill out a card afterward.
Good afternoon, everyone. Board Member Powell, Vice President Martin, Superintendent Mrs. Smith. I came down for Broadmoor High School and I had all these other notes to talk about, but I didn't have to. But I do want to say, I greatly appreciate this effort because it demonstrates that.
Excuse me, sir. Just want to take your moment and if you could identify yourself, please.
Okay, I'm Robert Wells. I'm the principal at Broadmoor Senior High School. My apologies. But I would like to say, I greatly appreciate this effort because I think it demonstrates that we have a sincere commitment to the people that are working very hard in our buildings every day. I know firsthand, my wife, she's a diabetic, she's insulin dependent, so we deal with this issue every year. So I'm at work every day, I hardly ever miss. So now that, it's great to know that we have a fallback plan so I can give her my days. But I think it speaks volume when we demonstrate to each other that we're caring one for another in this work, and we're caring about people, and we recognize that people are human. We have life happens, so just extending another avenue, another venue for support is going to go a long way with the teachers in the building. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Seeing no more public comments, we'll return to comments from the board. Any further comments from the board? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item C4, policy and policy revisions. Consideration of a request for the approval of the following policy and policy revisions. Sub-item A, BBC-Board Committees, new. Sub B, BCB-School Board Meetings Rules of Procedure, revised. Item C, BC-Meetings, revised. And item D, BCBA, Notices of School Board Meetings, revised. Is there a motion? Mr. Rust?
I'd like to make a quick substitute or
Just
amendment.
alter, edited, amended, whatever. It's the motion, but he's got extra language for it.
Okay.
Whatever this is.
So I move to approve the designated policies and policy revisions, but to include a revision of policy BCB, School Board Meeting Rules of Procedure, to allow for a vote of 5 board members to approve any item not receiving a favorable approval of a standing committee, but placed on a regular board meeting agenda for consideration.
Thank you. It's been moved by Mr. Rust as he read it, and seconded by President Powell Lewis.
It's a motion.
Before I turn it over to other members of the board, I'm going to put myself in the queue and explain generally what we're trying to accomplish here. This is going to adopt a committee structure for the board. From the public's perspective, everything is going to continue to operate very similarly to what we do now. There'll be 3 committees: a Budget and Finance Committee, an Academics and Accountability Committee, and a Operations and Facilities Committee. All three committees will meet one right after the other on the same nights that currently the Committee of the Whole meets. The president will appoint the chairs and co-chairs of the committee, except for the fact that the vice president will be chair of the committee of the vice president's choosing. The idea is to broaden the board leadership a little bit, get more of the board members actively engaged in the work of leading and doing a deeper dive and better understanding the very significant policy items and budgetary items that are brought before us. And we think this will be very beneficial for that. We're trying to minimize disruption to the public, make sure they still have every bit, if not more, opportunity to come and speak on items. That's why we're having it the same day and one right after the other. The bit that Mr. Rust added, if an item fails in committee, then it won't normally be presented to the full board. However, if any 2 board members request to add such a failed item onto the full board agenda, then there will be an opportunity for the majority, if the majority feels differently, the majority of the full board feels differently than the majority of the full committee, to have an opportunity to have that vote again. So that's in a nutshell, what the proposal is. President Powell Lewis.
Thank you. I just wanted to share as well in the wording for this item. It also includes the opportunity for ad hoc committees as needed, as well as for task force as needed. And we hope to work with our superintendent to be able to plan out what those task force need to look like in order to touch those urgent needs that we have within our districts. The task force will be temporarily serving, but will also include the voice of the stakeholders that we serve. So everywhere from a student to a parent, a teacher, or even our community stakeholders as well. So I am super excited about these opportunities. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Any further comments from the board? All right, turning to comments from the public. First up, we have Ms. Tanya McMillan. Ms. McMillan?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tanya McMillan, a parent of a child in East Baton Rouge Parish School System, and I'm so glad that this is on the agenda tonight because, as you know, I always have to find ways to make my topic germane or make my statement germane to the topic. And I would love for you guys to, one of the first task force that you guys put in place to be an examination of why Baton Rouge Magnet High School does not have the big three sports. I myself did a poll on Facebook, and I asked parents of elementary and middle magnet school children how that policy, or if that policy impacted which school they would send their children to. Got a lot of attention, over 200 comments. So this is a topic that people want to talk about. And the results were astonishing to me. I asked the question out of real, just pure curiosity after a conversation I had with another magnet school parent at an honor roll ceremony for our children, where both of our kids were on the honor roll. And we started discussing what middle schools our kids would go to and what high schools our kids would go to. And both of us shared the same sentiments that our boys would probably not want to go to Baton Rouge High because our boys are athletes that participate in the big three sports and excel in the big three sports. And we're on the honor roll at their foreign language academic magnet school. So then I got to wondering how many other parents are affected by this? How many other parents feel this way? So I did a poll, and the results surprised me. Of the respondents, most of them said that it didn't impact their decisions, but most of those respondents were white. Of the respondents that said that it did impact their decisions, the majority of them were African American. So then that got me thinking about the demographics of the schools and what that must look like. And another advocate so graciously shared with me the demographics of Baton Rouge High. They looked pretty good. They didn't really mirror our population, but they looked pretty good. Less than 30% African American, 20% Asian. The majority were Caucasian, and then you had some others. When I asked her what the demographics were at Liberty, because that was the school that she told me to just put my son in, and she also said you can put him in literally any other school in the district.
Ms. McMillan, that
I'm
is
sorry.
time, ma'am. That gets you a lot of leeway on germane.
Please look into it. You understand what I'm saying, though?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. In God we trust. Everything else bring data.
Thank you, Ms.
The
McMillan.
data is there.
Thank you. Next up for public comments, Ms. Norm Matthews.
There's a lot of information in board docs, and I do appreciate it, and I need to study it a lot more to fully understand. So I'm glad we have 2 more weeks so that I can harass you to learn more about it. I know you cannot answer from here, but hopefully maybe somebody will pick up the question and maybe just answer for us. But we have current rules on minutes and things like that, and what time things get out and how long meetings will be. And I'm curious if those types of things will carry over to the new committees and things like that.
Any further public comments? All right. Seeing none, we'll return to comments from the board. President Powell-Lewis.
Yes, I just wanted to speak to Ms. McMillan's comment. I know that, like she said, that she has to work hard to remain germane to the topic. And of course, the overall topic tonight was in regards to changing policy in regards to meetings, committee meetings and ad hoc committees, and then task force as well. But I did want to let you know, Ms. McMillan, that I hear you. I've also been following you on social media as well, so I know that that's a hot topic. And then also, we also have a young man, Mr. Watson. I hope that he he is listening. He's a middle schooler who has really been advocating for baseball in middle school. So I hear the voices, and I know that we will get a chance to eventually have the conversation about what our athletics look like in our various schools. So thank you.
Thank you. I've entered the queue. Is a good question about time limits, and we retain the 9 o'clock default stop time for the committees generally. What we've tried to do to be flexible, because you never know which committee is going to have more items. We don't want to artificially restrict time available, that, and I forget the numbers, hour and 15 minutes, hour 20 minutes, something like that is kind of the default time for each committee. However, just like the board can consider a request to extend the time, the committees can vote themselves an additional 30 minutes at a time should they need it. And the committees are going to be, everybody's still going to be sitting up here at the podium. The fundamental difference between a committee member and not is who can make motions and substitute motions on the item under consideration. The chair of the committee will have the discretion to allow other board members to ask questions or make comments there. And so, we think that will allow flexibility to take the time we need when we have a committee that has a significant agenda, while allowing us to move very rapidly if a particular committee has a light agenda. I think the other point that I'd like to make is that we've oftentimes in the past let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And so undoubtedly, as we move forward with this new structure, we'll find some things that we didn't fully anticipate when we were drafting the current document. But we think it's important to get started. And understanding that we might need to tweak some rules along the way as we see how they work in practice. So that's kind of our mindset going on. Mr. Rust.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just want to thank board leadership for bringing this item forward. I know this is something that many members of the board have talked about for at least the past year or so, and express interest in doing and trying. And so I'm glad to see that we're ready to attempt to make this change. I think it could be a great benefit to the board and to the work as a whole that we have to do as a board. I do think that there's probably going to be opportunities where we find that we may need to do things a little different from time to time. And so my hope is that our colleagues and the public will give some grace on how we do this, because I think it is a net benefit for the work that we have to do in allowing us to be more focused and do work with more transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rust. Any further comments from members of the board? All right, seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you. Moving right along, item C5, litigation. Consideration of a request for the approval of the recommendation from Gwen Shamlin, General Counsel, EBR PSB, in the matter of Anna Sudem versus EBR PSS and Christy L. Woods, suit number 656588, section 25, 19th JDC, Parish of East Baton Rouge, and to provide for related matters. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Blue, second by Mr. Rust. Are any board comments? This is a lawsuit settlement that has been recommended by our general counsel. Any further, any public, any board comments, excuse me. Mr. Goday.
Yes, thank you. Again, I just want to reiterate, as we go through all of our things with buses, and we're finally making some progress on getting GPS working. No, it's not working perfectly, I understand. But I keep bringing up time and time again, we need to get cameras on our buses. I don't know, on all these things, it seems like, I guess the only ones we get are the ones who accuse us of being at fault. But I think cameras on buses, which have become relatively cheap compared to what they used to be, would be something that would be greatly viable. And I've given information around the people that do UPS and all these other trucks. And they're not the systems they used to be in the past. All of this is done on cloud storage, and they don't even keep the tapes unless there's an incident. There's not even tapes. They don't even keep the scenes unless there's an incident, so you don't have a thing of a room full of tapes that you can't find anything on or anything like that. So as we move through this, and as we move through bus discussions, and as we move through budget discussions, I know these things can be rented for so many dollars a year for each bus to get the whole services, and just avoiding one of these lawsuits would pay for the cost of that. So I just really would like to, I know I've been bugging Mr. Shamlin about this forever, and he's going to respond to me right now. But I just want to highlight that fact that it would do two things. One, it would help protect us. But then secondly, our bus drivers would know there's a recording. And so hopefully everyone would be safer in that respect. So thank you.
Thank you. I think that'll be a terrific topic for consideration by the Operations and Facilities Committee. Mr. Shamlin.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in that we do have several quotes that we got over the last year, I think year and a half. I know Mr. Goday's been privy to them, and we'll bring them to the new committee for consideration through the superintendent and kind of study and look at what you guys would like to do. But we do have some information we may need to update, and we'll start that with new leadership.
Great. Thank you. Mr.
Thank
Lewis.
you, Mr. Shamlin.
Coach Lewis.
Mike, thank you for bringing up buses, and we're talking about cameras on buses. Let's maybe look at some governors on these buses. I'm coming down 110 today, okay? I'm in a two-door sports car, and I'm running 70. And an East Baton Rouge Parish bus passed me like I was standing still, full of kids. So who's ever driving those buses, let's think about putting some governors on them. Because we get one of them to flip over or ram through somebody, you're talking about a lawsuit. It'll be the whomever suing us, school board. I'm doing 70, and they passed me like I was standing still. And I got the number off the back of the bus, but I'm not going to throw them under the bus. I see Mr. McCain back there. I'll give it to him. But that's not the first time that's happened. They act like they drive in sedans or something, little go-karts, full of kids driving like their hair's on fire. And it ain't funny. Because I've seen little kids hanging out the window today when the dang on bus is doing 75 miles per hour.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I suspect that there are probably camera packages that integrate telemetry and radio feedback to a central point that could monitor the speeds attained and any other unsafe driving things. I guarantee you that FedEx and UPS has that, and so I'm sure Mr. McCann will be working with Mr. Ridgely to look at that very closely. All right, any further comments from the board? All right, any public comments on this item? Seeing none, back to the board. Any further board comments on this item? All right, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving right along to item C6, litigation. Consideration of a request for the approval of the recommendation from Gwen Shamlin, General Counsel, EBR PSB, in the matter of Samia Bremer versus East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, C-703-368, Section 26, 19th JDC, and to provide for related matters. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Rust. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Chatelain. All right. Any board discussion on this item? All right. Seeing none. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none. Back to the board. Any final board comments? Going once, going twice. All right. Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you. Item C7, litigation. Consideration of a request for the approval of the recommendation from Gwen Shamlin, General Counsel, EBR PSB, in the matter of Ashley Dewey versus Marie Babin, East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, and Berkeley Insurance Company. Docket number C690900, Section 21/D, 19th JDC, Parish of East Baton Rouge, and to provide for related matters. Is there a motion? Moved by Mr. Russ, second by Mr. Ballou. All right, is there any board comment? Is there any public comment? Back to the board. Any final board comment? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
Please vote. Motion carries.
That brings us to our final item for the night. Advertising, item C8, advertising for EBR superintendent position. Discussion, consideration for the advertisement for the position of superintendent. Is there a motion? Moved by Mr. Lannis. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Lewis.
I'm second.
Okay. All right. All right. In the queue now is President Powell Lewis.
Yes, if I could possibly offer a substitute motion, and it's pretty wordy, if that's okay. All right, and my substitute motion is the following. In an effort to make sure that we handle this very important matter in an organized and structured manner, I would like to include the following. Number one, board leadership, if we could convene a vision planning retreat, followed by a series of board workshops and a series of community engagement meetings across the district between February 2024 and April 30th, 2024, holding no less than 4 meetings, which would be at least 3 in-person meetings, each held in a different board district, and 1 virtual meeting. Each community engagement meeting will allow members of the public to express their perspectives and opinions regarding the district's vision and the superintendent search process. Number 2, that the goal of these workshops and community engagement meetings be the development of a community vision for our schools and a framework of priorities for the types of schools and students the district should develop, all building on our current foundations and strategic plans. Number 3, that along with the vision, this work will develop a set of criteria sought in a permanent superintendent for the district. Number 4, that the vision, framework, and priorities and superintendent criteria be presented to the board for potential adoption no later than April 30th. And number 5, that the position of superintendent will be advertised based on the adopted vision, framework of priorities, and criteria for at least 30 days beginning no later than May 6, 2024. That's my substitute motion. And if I need to pass some word into,
Is there a second to the substitute motion? Second by Mr. Rust. Okay. All right, does that conclude your comments?
no, I do have an additional comment if I can. Would you like to pass that down?
Please, yes.
Okay, my additional comment includes the following, that we want to make sure, you all, that we get this right this time, and that we utilize our community to our best advantage. We have heard many mention that there's a need to hear the voice of those that we represent. I am super excited that we are on our way, well on our way towards a retreat, well on our way towards a retreat that is all-encompassing, that will be held here locally within our district, and that we will begin to hear those voices, and that we will continue on with having community meetings that will support how we actually engage in our superintendency search. I look forward to this, and I sure hope that we will vote successfully tonight to be able to continue this work and have an actual plan that will actually lead to the person that we need to serve as our superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, President Powell-Lewis. Mr. Lannis. Thank you. Mr. Goday.
Yes, thank you. I applaud the effort to bring clarity to all of this. I think that's the right thing to do, and also transparency to this. Excuse me. My only comment right now, because this is a very extensive change from what was in the format in the thing, so I have not even had a chance to read it yet, so I think I heard most of what it said. So I will vote to move this forward, but I will tell you right now that I plan on pulling this off the consent agenda, because I think the public and everyone else needs more time to comment on the extensive, it's basically a rewrite of the whole thing, which I think are good things in there. I'm not saying that, but I'm going to vote for it. But I just want to let you know I plan on pulling it at the agenda, because I think our public needs more of a chance to digest it and be able to comment on it. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Blue.
Thank you. I appreciate, Madam President, for the well-thought-out plan and timeline. I just have one question, and mainly for General Counsel, or if any of my colleagues want to weigh in. Any considerations in terms of the timeline that we have to be aware of, or problems with the proposed the timeline in the substitute motion?
I don't see a problem. State law requires that an interim superintendent can only serve for 6 months, and that's actually language in statute, which we take as 180 days. So I don't remember the exact date of Mr. Smith's appointment, but it was sometime third week in January or so. So we'd be looking at roughly, and I'll get the exact date for you guys, sometimes third week in July is what we'd be looking at for a deadline of appointment of a permanent superintendent. So it looks like the proposal falls within a safe time frame for us.
And we crafted it with that idea, is that we advertise for the 30 days through the month of May, basically, and then it gives us the month of June to deliberate and make a decision and have somebody on beginning of July.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis.
President Powell, I appreciate, again, the well-thought-out plan. We do need to have a vision for what we want this school district to look like. We need to have a plan in place that when all of us are gone, that plan is still in place, because kids are still going to be graduating from East Baton Rouge Parish schools. And I say that, but I want to be cautious. I want us to think long and hard about this. I've participated in 2 of these community forums when we've been looking for superintendents in the past. So my concern is, how effective are they going to be? Are we going to get the word out? Are we going to use everything at our disposal to make sure the public knows that there's a meeting being held to discuss the future of your child in East Baton Rouge Parish Schools. The last superintendent search we had, I attended a couple of those meetings. And my main takeaway that I tried to express to the gentleman from Houston was whoever you bring in here, they damn well better know, pardon my French, the history of this district and how it arrived to where it is today. And what can those individuals, he or she, do to help make us a progressive school district? We made a choice that lasted about 3 weeks. And then we made another choice. And here we are again. So whatever we do, we better get it right this time. Because you do not build a house putting the roof on it first. You build a foundation from the ground up. And if anybody was present yesterday at the Rotary Club, the state of Mississippi showed just how you do that, how that's done. I sit up here for an entire year, and not one time can I recall anybody step into that podium, and I may be wrong, step into that podium talking about our subgroup data for our kids on the bottom. We got a lot of warm, fuzzy, feel-good stuff about all our high-performing kids, but that ain't how you move a school district. And the information and the data was there, but it wasn't allowed to be, it wasn't presented. And that's a horse of a different color. We'll talk about that later. But if we're going to do it right, the person that's walking in here, they need to understand this is how we want our school district to function. Because organizations, I don't care if it's IBM, East Baton Rouge Parish School District, or Raising Cane's, they all function the way they're designed to function. And if we're going to be a progressive school district, we need to design ourselves, even when we're gone, the next people sit up here, there needs to be a template, something in place. This is how the system is run. This is what we want East Baton Rouge Parish graduates to look like. I'm all in favor of the interviews and the community meetings, but we dang well better collect that data, aggregate it out, and see what the taxpayers of this community want their school systems and their school leaders to look like. Or long after I'm gone, sooner or later, somebody else will be sitting up here saying the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Well said and passionately as always. I've entered the queue to make a couple of comments. It's the national average tenure of a superintendent in a district like ours is 3 years. We cannot make progress over the long haul if we change our fundamental vision every 3 years. Now, that's not to say that we should plan or expect that the superintendent stay only 3 years. We certainly, our goal is to find a superintendent who will stay for 5 or 6 or 8 years. But we have to acknowledge the reality that if we hire somebody that's really great, we will have a hard time keeping them. If we hire somebody really bad, then we'll be running them off before too long. But we have to have a system, as Coach Lewis says, we have to have a system that will work and that will make progress, whether the new superintendent, regardless of who the superintendent is. The superintendent is crucially important, but we have to have a vision, our own vision our own community vision brought together by the community and the board that says, this is the kind of district we want. This is what we need. These are the things that are important to us at a level of detail that helps guide us as we make very important decisions that we're called on to make up here at the board, as we try to accomplish more and more with fewer resources than we would like to have. So I think that's why it's very important that over the next 2 months that we look very closely at what it is that we as a community want, and what does that mean, and what are the consequences of various decisions that we have. I think, Mr. Godey, to your point, there's plenty of time to do some more work, and we anticipate that there may be need for some consultants or search firm or something that we would anticipate coming to the board for approval in March. To hire that, do all the RFP work and get that all, in the pipeline, ready to go. So plenty of work still to be done in that regard. But the kickoff is going to be the retreat, which will be held at one of our local high schools primarily, and we'll be hearing both from external experts as well as some of our own exceptional staff, like our very own Andrea Okonski, to talk about data and the subgroup metrics that Coach Lewis always properly highlights on. So those are a few of our plans. I appreciate your support, Mr. Godey. I think the other thing I want to add is we're not starting this from scratch. The prior board, to us getting elected, did an exceptional job adopting our first ever really strategic plan. Our prior superintendent, as we said when he, at the press conference last month, provided us some strong foundations to build on. And we do not intend to throw all that work away or start brand new like we've never seen any of it before. We'd be foolish to do that. So we really want to capitalize on the progress that we've begun and really use this process to take it to the next level. That's all I have. Mr. Rust.
Thank you, Vice President. I just want to highlight, a lot of things that my colleagues have said here is that it's important that first things are first. And I think in order for us to select a superintendent, we need to define what we're asking from that leader. It is a very important position in our school system. And it's easy to just go look and say, here's a rock star, or here's a great leader. That's who we need. But the reality is we have to decide as a community what our school system should look like, and then what the focus of our superintendent should be, so that we can then go find a superintendent that can execute that vision. And so I think it's important that we do this work with our community in deciding and really focusing on what is important for our school system. As Mr. Martin said, I don't think that we need to seek to reinvent everything that we're doing in education in East Baton Rouge Parish. I think we need to look at what our wins are. I think we need to look at what our weaknesses are. And I think we need to get really, really focused on what moves the needle for kids. And what is going to get kids reading? What is going to get kids graduating? What are the important foundational things that our children in our community deserve? And how do we as a board create a vision that is going to get us there long term? Then we can find the right leader as a superintendent to execute that vision. So I thank you guys for putting this forward. Looking forward to doing this work with our board and with the community. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rust. Any further comments from the board? Ms. Powell-Lewis is in the queue for next round. All right, turning now to comments from the public. Ms. Matthews?
I first want to say, please, 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 please do not waste money. Do not pay for a search firm. We need somebody who knows Baton Rouge. We've seen what search firms do. It has not worked well the last 3 times. These are our children. It is our community, it is our city, our district. So I love the idea of having our vision. and having a superintendent buy into us, to what we are doing. That is absolutely awesome. And Coach, the meetings will be effective if the board listens to what the people said. You know, when you went to the last one and you had 124 people say Adam Smith and 42 people say the other one, that board, not this one, that board did not listen to the community. And I think Madam President's motion is excellent. I really like it. I do have one recommendation, just when you think about the timeline. I think maybe the end of April would be a better time to advertise than the end of May. Just when you think about how everything is lined up. And I think that it would be, but I think, you know, if we hire an excellent, okay, I forgot that thought, but anyways, but yeah, to Vice President Martin, when you were talking about the 3 years, that's the average, and how hard being a superintendent is, and it's very stressful, and being on the board is very stressful. But when you have somebody that does it well, and you hire the right superintendent, Adam Smith, you know, things kind of just move with ease, because, you know, you have somebody that has that calm disposition, and, you know, do everything, and, you know, it just do it a lot longer, and it'll last a while, and it'll be great, and, you know, he can do it until I retire, and it'll be wonderful. Go Adam.
Ms. Valencia Johnson.
Valencia Johnson, President of the East Baton Rouge Parish Association of Educators, in conjunction with LAE. I just want to say that I agree with this substitute motion. Storm took my talking points, but I do believe that the timeline should be moved up. I also believe that stakeholder input is very important. And also, for the 100th time, that the board actually listen to the stakeholders and what they say. If that would have been done the last time, we wouldn't even be having this conversation at this point. And I'm pretty sure our finances will be in a better state as well. To your point about looking at data and all of that, Adam Smith is a rock star in data. I just want y'all to know that.
But we're not talking about particular
I'm just saying,
potential candidates at this time.
Yeah, we're not. But just listen to the community and the input that is given. Take that consideration. I think that some key points that you need to look for is transparency. You need to look at somebody who is supportive and stability. All of those things are going to be important with moving forward, especially with some of the big, heavy items that we're going to have coming forward. So just keep those things in mind as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Before calling President Powell-Lewis to read the internet comments on this item, I just want to clarify that the substitute motion calls for beginning the advertisement in early May, May 6th. So the idea is that the advertisement happens through the month of May, with the decision-making happening during the month of June. President Powell-Lewis.
Okay, here are our online comments. The first comes from Ms. Fairley Cook Jackson. She says that I suggest, and of course this is no doubt in regards to the original item, I suggest deferring this item as it seems like putting the cart before the horse. The board needs to do the work to identify the needs of the district in a superintendent before advertising. Further, there is no time-sensitive reason to do this now. We also have a comment from Ms. Darla Landry. She says that I support passing the motion to advertise for the superintendent, and we certainly hope you take the candidate who is already in the room. Please be mindful that we don't need perfect. What we need is consistency and changing the leadership in central office. Yet again, will put us through another 3 years of turmoil and resistance. Regardless of the predecessor's strengths, we cannot deny the damage as well. Please place this ad and do the right thing and ultimately give Mr. Smith a position full-time. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, are there any further public comments on this item? Seeing none, we'll return to the board. President Powell-Lewis.
Thank you. I've entered into the queue just to share, first of all, thank you for those who gave your comments in regards to this particular matter. Thank you also to my colleagues for agreeing to support. I think that, whenever we get ready to do something of this magnitude, that we need as much structure as possible, which is what I've mentioned before. Also, Mr. Godey, if I can share as well, I know that you had reached out as far as an item was concerned as well, pretty much on the same lines. And so in order for us to, I know I keep saying the same thing, sounding like a broken record, get this right, we have to follow these steps. We have to go through this process. We have to, as Coach mentioned, build our house from the ground up. And it's just an opportunity. Y'all know I share this all the time. I'm a government teacher by trade, and everybody's voice at least needs to be heard. We may not always agree, but we need to hear everybody's voice, and that would be majority of our community as well. So I look forward to the opportunities to have conversations with our community. Ms. Matthews, I look forward to hearing the voices of those who desire to speak and share their opinion. I will say that I want us to keep this particular timeline because we know we have so many things going on at once. And I know that in the last series of town hall meetings that we only had a handful of people that were showing up in different spaces. And so I'm hoping that we can space out our community engagement that will allow people the opportunity to come. And then if all else fails, I know Mr. Kuzan, I threw you a curveball back here with saying we will have one virtual meeting. I guess that would apply to Miss Amy as well. One virtual meeting also for those who cannot make it to an actual physical site that they can join, because I know that all of us have families and children and we have to feed those children and all those good things as well. So with that in mind, I look forward to the community conversations and I look forward to the outcome that is in store. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Godey.
Yes, thank you. In accordance with what I said earlier and listening to some of the comments, I would ask that in the intervening 2 weeks that you look at a couple items. First of all is that there's no requirement that we have to have all the qualifications and everything, or we can use pretty much blanket set of qualifications in the advertisement to start the 30-day clock running earlier. And the reason I'm saying that is, having gone through some other superintendent searches, now is the time of year that people are looking at the openings and things like that because everybody's being hired in July. And so I think this is pushing it maybe a little too late into thing to get advertisement out, because advertisement is more than just putting it in the Advocate. It's putting it into some national organizations and other things. And I would also suggest we might think about rapidly putting an RFP, if we're going to do an RFP for a consultant, because you're going to have all these community meetings. You need a consultant running that, because it would be very difficult for someone internal to be able to run those kinds of meetings as they go through that. So those are just suggestions I think you might want to look at in the next 2 weeks about how we have to do that. And, I agree with coming up with a real concise list of requirements and what we want and how we go about doing it, but that doesn't necessarily have to tie in with the technical aspect of putting a application, a notice of vacancy in the paper or whatever it is to do that. So just look at that, and I think we might be able to move the timeline around a little bit, because advertising it and accepting applications aren't necessarily the same thing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goday. I think that's a solid point. You know, the 30-day advertisement is a minimum requirement. I think what I think I hear you suggesting is that we could start the advertisement. We could continue that advertisement for 60 days and start in April rather than May, so that the people who are thinking, hey, is it time for me to apply? Right. So I think that's a point well taken. On the issue of consultants, which goes back to Mrs. Lewis's question about making sure people show up for that, we certainly envision engaging a consultant to help us facilitate. We have Mr. Cousins back there who will do an able job getting the word out, but we need to do more than that, and we need, I think, to help make sure the conversations are productive.
Right.
Some professionals to help facilitate those conversations, so they're not just every which way.
And if we're going to do an RFP, there's timing of that. Now, I don't know if we need to do an RFP for professional
We
services.
do not, I've checked, we're not legally required to do so, but we don't need board approval to issue an RFP. We need board approval to sign a contract for more than $10,000. So that's why I was suggesting earlier that I anticipate that we would sign the contract for that in March. Or approve a contract.
My only concern is that the selection of the person receiving or group receiving that contract, that there is some competition and there is some transparency to that, because I'd be very disappointed if we just came in here and goes, here's the contract for the people we recommend.
Got to balance the need to move quickly versus the need for transparency.
I understand.
Yeah.
I've been down this road
I know
before.
you have. Yes, sir.
But we do have an opportunity for some transparency if we put that out, because I would be greatly disappointed if we just come in and say, here's the consultant. I think the public deserves more than that.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
We might be there.
We'll see.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goday. I think, look, this is the most important decision that we're going to make all year, who we engage as superintendent. More important than that, though, really is this visioning exercise that we need to go through with the public, all aspects of the public, all the stakeholders that come testify in this room, the stakeholders that fill the room when we have something like this that they care very deeply and passionately about, as well as those members of the public who for whatever reason don't show up in this room all the time. And it's our job as board members elected to represent the entire community to engage all of those voices. And consider, and then use our considered judgment about what is really in the best interest of our children to move this district forward. And I think I feel very, very strongly that this idea is that we have to have our community vision for what kinds of schools we want, what kind of district that we want. And that's in more detail than just, hey, we want all kids to learn to read, because obviously we all want that. We all want them to graduate on time and end up with productive jobs. But there are decisions that we have to make month in and month out up on this podium that are guided by ultimately, kind of much broader picture of what kind of district do we want. Do we like charter schools? Do we hate charter schools? Do we want community schools? Do we want to focus more on workforce development, early childhood? When it comes to scarce resources, which are our priorities? Those are discussions that we need to have as a community. And the outcome of those discussions will really help us identify what kind of superintendent that we need. Because everybody can spend all day long talking about, oh, I like this person, I don't like that person, oh, this person seems shiny today. It's hard work that we're asking the community to do over the next 2 months, but it's very, very vital for the future, because we cannot change vision every time we change superintendent. We have to have difficult conversations with ourselves. We have to figure out, we have to write down that we need the comprehensive staffing model changes. We have to reverse the decades of inequitable funding allocations in this district. We need to put things like that down in writing that are adopted by this board to say, this is what we're looking for. And then we go out and hire somebody who we believe is most likely to help us work in that direction. Mr. Lewis.
Is the clock running already? No. It started over good. I kind of want to make some comments on a couple things that have been said. Again, the date for advertising, give me that date again. Was that sometime in June?
No later than May 6th.
Okay, no later than May 6th.
But Mr. Goda makes a good point
Okay.
on that issue.
And I agree 100% with you, Mike. Now's the time when people start to look for jobs. We can't work all those things out. All the things that Patrick has spoke about, I spoke about, Mike, everybody up here has talked about the vision for this district. We can't put that vision down on paper and be concrete in 3 months. I mean, it is a moving target. We know conceptually what we want as a district, but we can't get all of that in concrete and then say, okay, now we're going to advertise for a superintendent. I think the two go hand in hand. I'm in favor of the vision casting and all those things for the district. I agree too that maybe we should look at moving that timeline up a little bit. Now, just for an example, Zachary, we talk about the surrounding areas, okay? Zachary, St. Landry, and maybe another couple other parishes have hired superintendents this year. I mean, they didn't go through all of this. Maybe they had it on paper before, I don't know. But Zachary made their choice right away. Correct me if I'm wrong. St. Landry, the same thing. How was their process, that long and drawn out? I don't know. But I do know that they're our neighbors, and they seem to not miss a beat. We kind of spin our wheels a little bit. Community schools, charter schools, those, pivot back to something Patrick said. All those things are important. I mean, I said 15 years ago, charter schools are here to stay. They ain't going no place. What we do about charter schools, how we handle charter schools, needs to be talked about. We're going to have a series of workshops. Let's talk about some of these things in the workshops and start building a foundation for how we want this district to look. Community schools. I sat up here a year ago and said I'm in favor of community schools, but it needs to be worked out how it fits into the overall picture of what we want to do as a district. Charter schools have been like the wild, wild west around here. Every time you look up, another one's popping up. Nothing against them if they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Same thing about a direct run school. If they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then hey, they need to be dealt with too. Because it's about our children. I can see us having workshops and working on some of these things and trying to get a framework for what we want this district to look like, but I do think we need to move the timeline up. I think the timeline needs to be accelerated. I'm in favor, but I would like to, maybe we can do that before we leave here tonight. I don't know, what we have to do that. 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Okay.
We have 2 weeks to think through that.
Okay, so, for.
Individually, not collectively as a group behind closed doors.
No, we don't want any more secret meetings at public places. Oh, did I say that? Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm not really. But we need to start thinking about moving this district forward. And don't delay, don't spin our wheels. Do what we got to do in the time that it needs to be done. Again, I'm going to say this one more time. Get out the rearview mirror and let's start looking through the windshield of what's in front of us and not so much for what's behind us. Because you will have a serious wreck if you're looking at what's behind you more than what's in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Any further board comments? All right, Seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on, not call the roll, please call for the vote.
Please vote. Oh, wait, let me make one minor change. Okay, please vote.
I just want to go on record that Mr. Gode asked me to vote yay for him before he walked out, just to be clear.
Hold on, I didn't know you were here. Sorry, I gotta vote again. I didn't realize I was gonna erase it when I opened it back for him. The motion carries.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, is the meeting sheet that was in the binder the correct current one, or did you have an updated one? I can't remember. The sticky to add the retreat on there. Thank you. And then, oh, there's the sticky. Thank you. Okay. So item D, announcement of meetings. Next meeting dates, regular meeting to be held on February 22nd, 2024 at 5 p.m. in the Central Office Boardroom. Board workshop to be held on March 7th, 2024 at 5 p.m. in the Central Office Boardroom. Some or all board members may attend. Committee of the Whole to be held on March 7th, 2024, immediately following the board workshop in the Central Office Boardroom. And board retreat to be held the evening of February 23rd and all day February 24th at, Madam President, would you like to announce where it's going to be?
Yes, I am super excited, super excited to announce that we will be hosting our board retreat February 23rd and the 24th, the evening of the 23rd and during the day of the 24th at Estroma High School. So we are utilizing the spaces that we have available within our district. And I think, Ms. Hall, tell me if I'm too early to announce this, that we are also having some level of partnership with our chefs as well. So I'm super excited about that. And if I can take another moment of personal privilege.
Please do.
Just to share, you all, our board secretary has obliged me with my teacher side of providing binders for us, and I wanted to share this with my colleagues as well to say, you can take it with you or you can leave it here. I do want you to have it though when you're here. So you don't have to take it with you if you don't need to. But thank you so much.
Before we, wait, Mike, before we.
hasn't read the meetings yet.
Oh,
okay.
Did I get it all?
I need a point of order.
That was the last of the meetings, Mike. Yes. All right, point of order to Mr. Lewis. Stay? All right, go ahead.
We received an email right before the meeting about a tragedy that took place today at Estroma High School, followed by a very similar tragedy at least 2 weeks ago. Ms. Lopez, I don't know if you have this on your person, but we spend an awful lot of our money with eye care. Okay? And you read the newspapers and you read the emails. Now, I think eye care is a great organization. But you come in and you stay 1 or 2 days, and then you're gone. Now, I do know we have counselors in the schools and all those types, all that stuff. All that's great and good. But does anybody in the room remember the shooting at Columbine? It kind of put school shootings on the map. And it seems like we've been dealing with one every week for the last 25 years. Do you realize that they had counselors in that school 20 years plus after that shooting? And that's Columbine, okay? We understand that community, what it looked like. But Tupac Shakur had a song about how the kids in L.A. would get killed over the weekend, and their kids are going to have to go right back to school on Monday. If we're going to heal this community and stop the senseless violence, we need counselors on hand for as long as it takes. And if we're shoveling out taxpayers' dollars, then we need to make sure that we are addressing the kids in this community that need it. Because if you know that trauma or those things will manifest themselves later on down the line, with no one ever knowing why this particular kid acted out. And now you're looking at suspension, expulsion, send them to the alternative school. Did anybody ask why? So let's take the Band-Aid off and let's try to get to the root problem and see, can we help our kids navigate the emotions, all the things that they're going through. The guy who wrote the theme song for my high school, I saw him that Friday. We were leaving school. This is 1974. He was cleaning the roof on his family's house over the weekend, fell, hit the power lines, and was executed. Electrocuted, I'm sorry. Not executed, electrocuted. Even to this day, I think about that and how that impacted me when I knew I wasn't going to see that kid anymore for the next 2 years in high school. And we got kids who are dealing with things worse than that. So let's please find a way to address the trauma that our kids are going through in this district. To me, it's more important than the superintendent search and how much money we spend and whether we're going to software our people to death or workshops. All that stuff does not matter more than the well-being of a kid that their parents entrust us to educate. And in some cases, partially raise. So let's go the extra mile. Let's try to find out what's going on with our kids. And if we don't know what's going on with them, let's at least try to comfort them, because there's some comfort's going to be needed. And some still probably needed at Broadmoor High School. We sit here last week or 2 weeks ago and had this fancy survey about people not feeling safe in school. On the heels of that, 3 students have been killed. 3. So let's get down to the main thing. The main thing is kids. Thank you for the point of privilege.
Thank you, Coach Lewis, for that sobering message. Mr. Goday? Oh, excuse me. Yeah, Mr. Goday? Mr. Ballou. All right.
Thank you. Since Mr. Lewis mentioned Columbine, just for clarification, in case anybody misunderstood, there have been no school shootings involved. I just wanted to make that clear.
The original shooting was in '99.
Correct. Point well taken, Mr. Blue. Thank you for clarifying. All right, anybody else? Mr. Godet. Mr. Godet has moved to adjourn. Thank you.